Our next section is Plenary 11, and we will learn more about catalyzing tech entrepreneurship in Southeast Europe. Please welcome back to our focus stage to introduce our next speaker, Kate Harden-England, Executive Editor, Travolution.
Thank you, everyone. Just quickly, I wanted to introduce the next fabulous speakers we had in our lineup for you. As you can see, it was an absolute honor to have Minister Bartlett on this stage, but he is one of the best placed people to learn from, and he's just so exciting to listen to as well. Next up is Joshua Ryan-Saha of Traveltech Scotland and the University of Edinburgh. You'll understand when you see him speak as well, he is another brilliant speaker for us to have placed at this conference, as he is well known and well recognized for his value in the UK when it comes to innovation and travel technology for our industry. But he's also got a very, very big involvement in this region as well, and it's something that is very close to his own heart, but I'll let Josh elaborate on that more. So please welcome Josh to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Yeah, what a wonderful session. What a difficult act to follow. The Honourable Minister, he has wisdom, judgment, gravitas, and a track record of excellency. Something that is completely absent from myself. So hopefully you'll be able to endure this talk. No, it's an absolute pleasure to be here today. As Kate said, I'm Joshua Ryan-Saha. I am the director of Traveltech Scotland, which is a community of tech companies working in tourism, travel, and hospitality. I also am based at the University of Edinburgh's Futures Institute, where I lead on research and knowledge transfer for technology and research in travel and tourism and festivals as well. So what I'm going to talk to you today is a little bit about my own experience setting up this community of technology companies, which is now 200 strong and has had over £50 million leveraged in the last sort of 4 years. I'm going to do it quite quick, and I hope that you get a lot out of it. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I think there's a lot of similarities between Scotland and the region. There are amazing festivals, Sarajevo's wonderful film festival that I've been to, and Edinburgh's international festivals, the beautiful countryside and nature that is here and also in Scotland, and the amazing adventure tourism opportunities in both countries. So I think there's something that my experience can offer to Sarajevo, to the broader Balkan region. So, before I do it, I just wanted to say finally that the 4 pitches were fantastic. I thought they all reflected something that I see in the travel technology sector. So the first one, I think has huge potential for accessible tourism, really incredible. The second one touched upon one of the major problems with AI, which it's not very good at managing logistical challenges. The third, I think, is something I wish I had done in my time in Sarajevo. The virtual reality is incredible and it's going down in cost. So hopefully you'll be able to create some more fantastic videos. And then the fourth as well, I think could really help reduce tourism leakage in the region and get more money staying in the economy. So 4 fantastic startups, certainly please join my community. Let's get started. So I'm going to talk through 10 rules, 10 bits of learning that I have setting up this community in Scotland. The first is build a network, a community, or a cluster. You actually have to resource it. One of the things I found is that the travel industry is extremely sociable. I found that probably to my detriment last night, actually. But it's so sociable that you need to actually create these networks. You need to put resources behind it. One of the good things about working in a university is that you can always find an academic who's going to tell you how to do it. And my academic at Edinburgh was a man called Ben Spiegler, and he told me you set up a network for a few reasons. One is that you need a space for people who are doing similar things to learn from each other in real time. So you need to be able to create a network to do that. The second is you need someone or a group of people who can make it easy for all of those companies to do the things they want to do. Because everyone's learning for the first time. And if you're this sort of central point, then you can help them learn much faster. The final 2 things is advocacy. You want someone who can advocate on behalf of that sector. And that was what I was doing in Scotland and in the UK. And then also work on those collective problems. Now, one of those problems in Scotland was 2021. We were just opening up the economy again, and all of these tourism and hospitality businesses were looking for the technology that they could adopt to make it safe to open up tourism businesses again. So what we did is we convened all of these tourism businesses and created something called Prep Starts Now, and it was a way of helping all of these small businesses find the technology that they need. And actually, that really helped some of the companies grow and expand. One, QuickServe, that does contactless payment solutions, is now operating across the whole of Europe with Starbucks. So, you know, these sort of collective action things can be super helpful. Number two, open to all. This is my lovely, fantastic new office. It's not just for me, but this is the Edinburgh Futures Institute in the heart of Edinburgh. And above the door is inscribed open to all. Now, rather unhelpfully, it is inscribed in Latin, which slightly defeats the object, but the sort of ethos of that is really, really important when it comes to tech entrepreneurship. First of all, universities are hotbeds of talent. You have people here at the University of Sarajevo and the region's universities that will be very, very accomplished technicians, computer scientists, designers, and you need to draw on that to create the next set of entrepreneurs. But crucially, and it was something that the minister said that I thought was really interesting about over 60% of the workforce being women. Now, can anyone guess how much venture capital money goes into tech companies that have a female founder? I'm not going to, because I know you know the answer, but do you want to have a guess? 2%. It's even lower. It is 1%. Now, for me, that is a huge opportunity missed. 60% of the workforce, they understand the problems, the challenges, the issues, yet they're not getting the investment. So what I would say to the region here, and of course to my colleagues in Scotland, is let's embrace female entrepreneurship in Traveltech. Because if no one else is funding it, we should access that talent. So that is what I think about open to all. We should make sure, if you are trying to support the tech ecosystem, that you're really supporting anyone who can potentially be that next tech entrepreneur. The menagerie. So, the menagerie is a term for a sort of enclosed grouping of animals. And whenever you're talking to tech folk, they're talking about unicorns. It's actually Scotland's national animal. But of course, unicorns are very rare. Unicorns are sort of a tech company worth over $1 billion, and everyone's after them. But what I found setting up this network was that you shouldn't just be after unicorns. You should be after supporting whatever business it is to reach the scale that it can reach. There are a lot of amazing tech companies that will never be unicorns, and they shouldn't be discarded because of that. These tech companies should be supported to really grow and flourish, whatever potential scale they have. So you're hearing a lot more now about zebras, which are tech companies that have a social purpose, camels, and a whole range of other names. But if you are a part of supporting that ecosystem in Southeast Scotland, then don't just aim for the billion, aim for success on the terms that our company can reach it. So, good problems. Good problems is a term that I used when I was working in medical diagnostics, weirdly enough. And we were doing a big challenge prize, a big science prize around trying to work out how can we solve the problem of antimicrobial resistance. And what we had to do was an awful lot of research to find out, well, what is actually causing this problem? What is the good problem within it? And we found out that it wasn't really about the lack of antibiotics or other things like that. They are problems, but it was about the antibiotics being overprescribed. And what we needed was a diagnostic tool to say whether you had a viral infection or a bacterial infection. That was a good problem. So you need to find and validate the good problems for your tech companies to thrive. If they can solve those good problems, then they can have a market. So what are the good problems we've got now? I think leisure is a good problem. I think it's really hard still to book and spend if you're doing business and leisure together. But obviously, one of the things we've talked about, staff shortages. So what did we do? We wrote a report that actually talked about this problem, did the research, and then shared it with our network. And some of the things that came up were not robotic solutions. It was things like process automation. It was like bringing platforms to bring the older workforce back into hospitality. So if you can define and validate those good problems, you're in a really, really good space to help those tech companies thrive. Next, AI, of course, embracing the AI playground. So the University of Edinburgh was the second university after Stanford to have an AI course over 50 years ago. And it is our leading area of research. And, I'd like to take you back to when you first used ChatGPT, because it is only about a year and a half ago, and it did feel like magic. And I think sometimes we forget it. We're really good at sort of overestimating the potential of technology in the first 3 or 4 months. You say, oh, it's going to be amazing, and then we don't see it. But we underestimate its potential in the long run. ChatGPT is the fastest tech adoption we've ever had. 2 months for over 500 million users or something around that. Incredible adoption. So AI is there. But the other thing about it is it has so broad a capability, from computer vision to text to multimodal AI. We're still playing around with it. So what I'm saying is that we need to get tech companies just getting into that space to play with AI tools. Give it a go. See what they can do with it. Things will work, things won't. One of our companies is a company called Obvlo, fantastic Scottish company, you should check them out. And what they did originally was actually, they had a company called Secret Takeaways. They were trying to be a sort of competitor to Just Eat and Deliveroo in the UK. And they started playing with AI. And now they're an entirely different company. What they do now is they provide hotels with a things-to-do concierge using AI, not just to scrape everything, but to scrape the sort of curated and lovely and validated things to do when you're in a destination. And they do that all with AI. It's not a complex model, but they've designed it and created a beautiful product just by playing. So what you need to do is make sure that you can help these companies play with it, have hackathons, have sessions, and then help them pivot to meet the market and solve those good problems I mentioned before. So, the first check. Now, the hardest thing when you're a tech company is getting that first check, but it's particularly important because if you don't get it, then you are constantly trying to juggle millions of things. You're trying to do your job, set up a tech company, look after the family, do all of that sort of stuff. Now, this is particularly difficult, again, for female entrepreneurs who perhaps do have a family. I think one of the critical parts of that first check means you can then potentially even quit your job and just commit to doing this work, commit to making a good tech startup. And early stage funding can sometimes be really, really hard to come by. One thing I'd suggest very specifically for the region is try to connect with people like Techstars, which are the biggest tech early stage funding routes. And I sometimes have regret when I look up in my last 4 years, and I've worked with companies, some that really didn't get that first check quickly enough and now have been overtaken. I've seen companies in Europe and US who are doing things that someone was telling me 3 years ago they wanted to do, and I didn't act quickly enough to help them get that money. So you do need to help get them that check so they can commit to creating a brilliant tech company. Now, I work at the Edinburgh Futures Institute. I dabble in a bit of futures work. I like to do some workshops and exercises. Some of these images you see at the back, these lovely diagrams and cartoons, come from sessions that we do with experts in the tourism and travel industry, which I've done now with over 600 people, where what we try and do is we bring together a selection of trends, signals we're seeing from the future, and then we help the sector co-create visions of the future. What is actually potentially going to happen in 2010? What do you envisage? Now, this is really important for helping travel companies and tech companies develop solutions that aren't just a pastiche of what has happened before. The amount of times I've heard, we are the Airbnb for this. We are the Airbnb, and it's like, yeah, a great model, but what is next? How can we actually innovate to create the next product that is going to change the future? So you have to start, if you're an ecosystem builder or you're trying to help these tech companies, share the market intelligence reports you've got, share the signals you'll see in the investment market, but also work with them to understand and shape the future they want to see in the travel industry. That we don't know what our future is going to be. There is no predetermined version of a future. Instead, work with tech companies to help them realize the vision they want to see. So it's really important to think about a future with these travel tech companies. We've got three more learnings. Test beds. This is probably my favorite image. It is an image of virtual reality out in the Scottish Highlands, a place you should all visit, by the way. Now, what do I mean by test beds? Tourism and hospitality, it's a lot of very small businesses, and often they're quite risk averse. So what you need to do is cultivate a way for those innovative travel tech companies to find their first customer so that they can have a trial, a test bed. They can start using that technology and seeing if it works or not. And if you have a test bed, if you have some traction in the market, you're about 70 to 80% more likely to be able to get that first check, that first bit of investment. We're doing this in multiple regions in Scotland at the moment. And we're trialing AI solutions in the self-catering accommodation sector, where rather than having a PDF that tells you where the gas switch is or how to find your local supermarket, that you can do that through a chatbot. We're doing it with blockchain review technology. We're doing it with process automation in a huge Scottish distillery as well. So we're trying to convene the space for these tech companies to work with their first customer, get that traction, and then get that investment. And that is a great opportunity in this region. You can imagine a situation where the companies we've spoken about today can get another opportunity to work in a different part of the Balkans and really grow what they're doing, get that feedback. It's really, really important for the ecosystem builders to help those travel tech companies find that network. Now, another couple of things, the final two. Scotland is brilliant. Edinburgh is fantastic. Glasgow is fantastic. But it isn't actually the heart of travel tech in the UK. London is, because London is the heart of tech. In Europe, probably. All of the investors are there. That's where companies want to be. It's much bigger. It's about 7 or 8 million rather than 1 million. And, we can try and compete, or we tap into it. So what we do is we constantly go down to London. We go to where the investors are. So what my suggestion for the Balkan region is to think about where is the center of gravity closest here? Where are the investors? When I think about Europe, Amsterdam, the home of Booking.com, of course. You have Berlin, where Omeo, Get Your Guide was founded. You have Barcelona, where Traveltech, Amadeus have a huge office. These are the hubs that are doing really interesting and amazing things. Vienna has a growing travel tech hub as well. You have to really make sure that you build those connections to the places that are already thriving travel tech hubs. And go on visits. Go see what is happening in those places. Make those deep connections, find those investors, bring them to the Balkans, host sessions here as well, just like we're doing today. And that's what we've been doing in London. A lot of our companies, Scottish founded, don't even stay in Scotland anymore. They may have an office of 4 or 5 people, and that's great, but they're headquartered now in London. But what we'll do is keep on working to bring them back and create that economic value in Scotland as well. And my last sort of point is kind of a very obvious one if you're in travel, which is travel is international. And you need to think about international first. So if you're a travel tech company, you can't just focus on the specific market you're in. Maybe start there, but you always need to think about where you go next. And also, as a network, you need to be going out into those different locations. We are a founding member of the World Travel Tech Forum, which is a group of about 10 different travel tech communities all across the world, and we meet, collaborate. We have the Catalonian Travel Tech Cluster, which are really good. They're much better than us, and they're fantastic. And we went and brought them over to us in Scotland. We had a sharing session, and off the back of that, we've had 4 more companies now operating in the Spanish market. They've got tons more companies working in the Scottish market. But we also got Traveltech to open an office in Edinburgh, now with 30 members of staff, all in Scotland. These sort of networks, these international networks, building on that amazing travel camaraderie that we have, that's what we can do to really help. And, I hope that these 10 sort of lessons are potentially a guide for some of you who might be wanting to support that incredible network you have in the Balkan region. Kate mentioned it before. I've spent an awful lot of time in Sarajevo. I first came in 2007. I think this is my 10th time. I pretty much lived here for 2 years. And, I've got a huge affinity to the place. It's wonderful. And I've spent time at the university. I've spent time in the tech communities. And I know the talent that is here. I know that Scotland is not all that different from Sarajevo. And if we can do some work here, then you can do it in here as well. So Scotland can achieve it, so can Bosnia and Herzegovina as well. Now, one final thing is tell everyone all the time, everywhere, what you're doing. So if you do set up a cluster, a network for travel tech in the region, don't keep it a secret. Don't hide it under a bushel. Tell everyone what you're doing all the time. you know, I worked with a chief medical officer in the UK once, and she said something that always sticks in my mind. She said, Josh, what you need is just one phrase, and you need to say it again and again until everyone's incredibly bored of it. Unfortunately, politicians seem to have cottoned onto that as well. And what we had was Scotland is the hub for UK Traveltech. That's what we said. I said it to everyone I met. I'm saying it to you right now. My new one is that Edinburgh is launching a UK innovation hub for Traveltech, and it's going to be there where my little face is popping up. This is the building. That's the space for Traveltech innovation in the UK. 40 desks of mixed companies all working to innovate, and you're all invited. So I am so grateful for this wonderful conference. I'm so grateful to come back to Sarajevo, my favorite place in the world. And I'm so grateful for all of your attention listening to me today. I can't wait to listen to all the amazing experts I'm hearing later on. And if you want to connect with me, here you can. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and have a great rest of the conference.